he's talking about there's more footage. There's 140 hours that he has, and each episode was only maybe an hour, I think. There was 4 episodes, so there's at least 130 something more hours that he hasn't edited or produced.
For some reason, Diddy, around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and hell, it's something.
Anything that surprised you from that footage?
The footage, well, I mean, it was really interesting to see his last days of freedom, and what was sort of important to him. Obviously, there's phone calls with his attorneys, with his team. It was very interesting to watch a man who's known for his brand presence. He has a really amazing knack for marketing and all of that, and how he was sort of taking that into account and how he was coming off to the public, in the days leading up to his arrest and indictment.
Like 3 or 4 pictures in the documentary that I've seen of myself. Some people say they saw more, but I know three different times where I was certain places that you could actually see me in the documentary.
When Netflix released The Reckoning, viewers felt it immediately. Something didn't add up. The allegations were explosive, the timeline unsettling. Yet the documentary felt strangely restrained, almost sanitized. Not because the facts weren't there, but because the reactions were. The raw moments, the visible cracks. Almost at once, whispers of unseen footage began to circulate. Insiders claimed the filmmakers had access to far more than what aired. Material shot just days before Diddy's 2024 arrest, when the pressure was closing in and everything was starting to unravel. This was an old archive footage. This was real-time collapse. What made it even more suspicious was who stood behind the project. 50 Cent, a longtime rival with no reason to protect him, and Gene Deal, a former insider who knew exactly where the bodies were buried. That pairing alone raised red flags. Then came the legal threats. Netflix insists everything was obtained legally. Diddy's team claims private material was stolen. 50 Cent keeps hinting the public has only seen a fraction. And Gene Deal says the story has barely begun. Which leads to the only question that really matters. What did Netflix choose not to show, and what were they afraid would happen if they did?
And Diddy, around the time of his arrest, thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be exonerated later, so I'm going to film all this, and then I can use it in my big comeback later when I'm not in jail. Didn't work out the way he thought, and it turns out he went to jail for a few years. All right, he didn't get the full amount, but he still got a few years. And 50 Cent somehow managed to pay for the footage off of the videographer. Probably Diddy's worst nightmare, this. It's got to be up there. Now, we're going to get into what's in the actual documentary, and hell.
We need the core theme to be, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong on any front.
By the way, these conversations, the lawyer had no idea he was recording them. So when the lawyer's like, yeah, we need everyone to believe you did nothing wrong, it kind of takes away from when the lawyer is out in public saying, yeah, my client is completely innocent. And now he's showing the behind the scenes where he clearly didn't think he was very innocent. So not Diddy's smartest move. However, throughout this journey, you'll see he makes a lot of crazy decisions.
I don't think it's working. I listened. I've been a superb client, as you said. I jumped on the plane. I'm coming to New York, but I'm just running around waiting for a shoe to drop.
He's shitting himself right now, in case you can't tell, and he really doesn't look good.
It's the middle of September, and there's still no indictment.
Then you have to have a spokesman. You have to have some sort of comms to constantly be pushing that, Mark. Because you may just be a person that you just may watch CNN. You know what I'm saying? And there's 9 billion people in the world, and 7 billion of them is on Instagram. in TikTok.
He's basically trying to get control of the narrative. That's what he's really worried about. He wants public perception to be, this was all bullshit. Unfortunately for him, we'd all seen the CCTV of him beating the shit out of Cassie. So, like, we know you're not a good guy, man. That's out there. A statement from your solicitor is really not going to change that.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us, whether they from this country or from another country. It could be somebody that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media and propaganda.
We need to brainwash some motherfuckers right now, and we need people who are used to working with the dirtiest of dirty, because that's what he is, and he's admitting it. How could you let this footage fall into the hands of 50 Cent, my guy? And honestly, it always comes down to money with Diddy, because Diddy didn't get rich just because he was, you know, clever in music. Diddy got rich because he robbed people all the time, and him not taking care of the people around him, it just comes back to bite him a million times over.
It's like we have a movie, you're speaking this language, and you know what I'm saying, we need subtitles. And we're not providing the audience with subtitles. And I invited you to this movie, and you in this thing, you don't know what's going on. You just see, you just see the images, you know, quickly. Now, it has a whole life of its own.
I gotta say, this whole doc was edited well. When he said, you just see the pictures and they cut to the CCTV. Well done, 50. You nailed that, son. If you're going to take him down in style. So you get a clear window from the jump here into Diddy's psyche. He doesn't give a f about Cassie or any of these girls. He doesn't give a f about anyone. It's save yourself mentality, and it's crisis mode. And you can see on his face, well, you know he's got a problem. This is at an all-time high of his taking, surely.
The most explosive rumors don't center on what happened after the arrest, but on the days leading up to it. In the final stretch before Diddy's September 2024 arrest, cameras were allegedly rolling nonstop, capturing a man who wasn't confused or caught off guard, but fully aware the walls were closing in. This wasn't ignorance. It was anticipation. Insiders claim footage exists of closed-door meetings, tense phone calls, and private moments never intended for public view. One clip, now heavily whispered about, allegedly shows Diddy alone in a hotel room, speaking on speakerphone with his lead attorney. His tone is calm, controlled, and devastating. He doesn't say they're fighting. He doesn't say things are delayed. He admits they're losing. That single word changes everything. Powerful men don't speak like that unless their exits are disappearing. The conversation reportedly shifts quickly from legal defense to damage control. How to shape the narrative, manage public perception, and rely on people fluent in the darkest arts of media manipulation. That's why his legal team is pushing back so aggressively. They argue these were private strategy sessions never meant to surface. They say the footage crosses a line. Netflix disagrees. So does 50 Cent. What makes this material chilling isn't just what's said, it's when it's said. Before the arrest, before the handcuffs, before the courtroom. It captures the precise moment when power, money, and silence stop working. And once you know this footage exists, it's impossible to believe the public saw the full story. Then comes the final twist. Reports suggest Diddy himself may have unknowingly set all of this in motion by filming a personal documentary, trying to preserve his own version of events. If true, the most damaging evidence didn't come from outsiders. It came from his own camera.
50, how'd you get it, and what does that scene show?
Well, I mean, you know, you're a journalist, Harvey. Harvey, you would not disclose your sources.
We usually don't.
Yeah, but I got it. Yeah.
What he said.
and what do you think it conveys? Because we see someone trying to pull the strings and talking about, he would say affecting, others would say manipulating the public views of the allegations.
I think that, you know, one big theme of the series is to go behind the scenes to really understand how brilliant you could say Sean Combs is at marketing, at owning his narrative, controlling the narrative at all times. And so why would that stop, you know, when his life is on the line? So I think that, you know, on its face, that's what it is. But as you get deeper in the film, you start to realize, you know, perhaps how some of these tactics, you know, how they really came to present themselves, you know, during the trial.
You show that, his abilities, his early rise. Alexandra, you also give time to victims of the alleged abuse. Some of the cases are in different procedural postures, and you show victims who were women and men. Why is that important?
Because, you know, victims of sexual assault, sexual violence, you know, that should, there should be, gender should not be a part of that conversation. When you are a victim, you are a victim. And I think that, you know, this series was a platform in a way for these alleged victims to come forward, give their truth, put context to their situations when so much of it was ripped out, you know, and we just went, the world was going for the salacious headlines, and they really had the time to tell their story.
Yeah, and the film takes us way behind the PR or propaganda machine. You see Diddy the day he's finding out about new suits against him while he's in New York preparing for